Hello, today I will be summarizing my first grade homework assignment by showing my understanding of simple linear regression through analyzing the gifted data set and multiple linear regression through analyzing the empty cars data set. So for gifted, I quick I looked for a summary of the data, made made a few quick observations, and kept them in mind for the rest of our tasks and the assignment. I kept the info for the scatter plots and the correlation plots. I kept the analysis for both tight and knit as they do go hand in hand. Um, for the linear models, I mainly focus on the p-value, f-statistic, and r-squared value. For the residual analysis, I mainly focus on residuals for fitted for analyzing constant variance and linearity, and the QQ residuals for assumptions of normality. Uh, when it came to the hypothesis test, I kept the result for this in mind as it will help me build my own scenario later down the line in question 11. For the confidence intervals, I kept in mind that the prediction interval was going to be a wider range than the confidence interval, despite that there's a higher confidence level in this example for the prediction interval compared to the confidence interval. Made the bands here and built my own scenario here. When it came to empty cars, I overall had the same approach with the box, but however, I just focused on MPG and weight. And for Shapiro Wilk, I kept in mind that this should go hand in hand with the QQ residuals plot. And if it doesn't, then that means I have the wrong answer. So my key insights were that only Mother IQ and Reed had the strongest um, relationships with score. Um, the model for Mother IQ was a better fit than Reed, although they were both statistically significant. The residuals confirm the assumptions of normality, linearity, and constant variance. For the hypothesis test, we failed to reject a null hypothesis. Um, and like I said, the confidence interval here is, in fact, more narrow than the prediction intervals. And for my scenario, I wanted to build one that where we actually rejected the null hypothesis, which, as we can see, we did here. For T cars, each of the prediction intervals, the predictor intervals, and the response intervals had a strong negative correlation. The box plots, both weight and MPG, were skewed to the right. However, MPG had a wider range. We had a more narrow range with some outliers. And the small p-value in the Shapiro Wilk normality test does follow the QQ residuals assumption of normality. I estimate on this assignment that I will get, I believe, a B. The reason I say this is because for exercise 1 and 2, I believe the whole thing was pretty straightforward. The one thing I'll give exception to that is 10 and 11 on exercise 1. Building the confidence band was pretty difficult. However, I looked in the or more down notes to assist me on it, and it was a great use to build the bands. For question 11, I did need a little thinking. However, I use question 7 to model the hypothesis test, and I look in the notes really quickly to see how it should be, and I was able to create the scenario pretty smoothly. Where I mainly struggled was exercise 3, the theoretical derivations. More specifically, the last question for part A, the part B residuals question, and the the last question on part C for the theory of least squares. Um, that I really had to like dive deep in the textbook for help as well as the slides, and it definitely helped me a lot. However, I'm not sure if I have the complete and correct answer for each of those. And in addition, I feel like I left out a few notation marks and I had a few errors with that. So I believe because of that, I will get a grade of a B.